Unexpected encounters. Adrian Matthews gripped the railing of the ferry as it approached the cliffs of Santorini, the Aegean breeze tousling his dark hair. The island rose before him like a dream, whitewashed buildings perched atop volcanic rock, glowing gold in the afternoon sun. He inhaled deeply, trying to appreciate the beauty through his photographer's eye, rather than dwelling on the knot of anxiety in his stomach. 3 days, he murmured to himself, just smile through 3 days of wedding festivities, then back to reality. His phone buzzed with a text from Liam. "Almost here, mate? Can't wait to see you. Drinks at Sunset Terrace, 7 p.m. Adrian smiled despite himself. Liam Kennedy had been his best friend since university, and even Adrian's self-imposed workaholic lifestyle hadn't managed to break that bond. When Liam had asked him to photograph his wedding as a friend, rather than hiring a stranger, Adrian couldn't refuse, even if it meant traveling halfway across the world to a place that felt uncomfortably close to memories he'd spent years burying. The ferry docked, and Adrian joined the stream of tourists disembarking. A driver holding a sign for Wedding Kennedy collected him and 3 other guests, whisking them up winding roads to a boutique hotel overlooking the caldera. The view from his room was breathtaking, endless blue meeting the sky at an indistinguishable horizon. After a quick shower and change, Adrian made his way to the Sunset Terrace. The space was already filled with guests mingling beneath strings of soft lights, champagne glasses glinting in the golden hour. Adrian spotted him immediately, breaking away from conversation to envelop him in a bear hug. "You made it! God, how long has it been?" Liam asked, clapping him on the shoulder. "Too long," I admitted. "London keeps me busy." "Too busy. Your Instagram is all buildings and no people," Liam teased. "Speaking of which, I need to introduce you to our venue coordinator. She's been incredible. Saved our wedding when the original place fell through." Adrian nodded politely, scanning the crowd for Liam's fiancée, Emma. Instead, Liam guided him toward a woman standing with her back to them, her honey-brown hair cascading down a simple blue dress that caught the wind. "Sophia," Liam called. "The friend I was telling you about is here." Time slowed as she turned. Adrian felt the champagne flute nearly slip from his fingers as familiar amber eyes met his. Eyes he'd once known better than his own reflection, eyes that had haunted his dreams for 3 years. Sophia Demetrius, the woman who had disappeared from his life without warning, stood before him, her olive skin paling slightly as recognition dawned. "Adrian," she whispered, the name falling from her lips like a forgotten melody. Liam glanced between them, confusion evident. "You two know each other?" Adrian found his voice somewhere beneath layers of shock. We used to." Sophia recovered first, extending her hand professionally. "It's been a long time." Her touch sent electricity through his veins, memories flashing unbidden, her laughter echoing through his old apartment, her fingers tracing patterns on his chest at dawn, the empty space she'd left behind. "Sophia is the best wedding coordinator in Santorini," Liam continued, oblivious to the current running between them. "Her family owns this property." "How convenient," Adrian managed, withdrawing his hand from hers. A voice called for Liam from across the terrace. "I'd better go," he said. "Emma's parents just arrived. Catch up, you two." As Liam departed, silence fell between them, heavy with unspoken words. The sunset painted the sky in shades of pink and orange, but Adrian only saw the golden flecks in Sophia's eyes, unchanged by time. "I didn't know," she finally said, her accent slightly more pronounced than he remembered, "that you would be here." "Likewise," his voice was cooler than intended. Sophia glanced down at her clipboard. "I should check on the catering." As she turned to leave, Adrian found himself speaking. 3 years, Sophia. Not even a goodbye." She paused, her shoulders tense. Some goodbyes are impossible to say. With that, she disappeared into the crowd, leaving Adrian alone with the sunset and the ghost of what they once were. The wedding weekend had only just begun. Beneath the surface, morning light filtered through the gauzy curtains of Adrian's room as he stared at the ceiling, sleep having evaded him most of the night. His mind replayed the moment of seeing Sophia, her initial shock, then the careful mask of professionalism that followed. He had spent years convincing himself that what they had shared was merely a chapter closed, not a story left unfinished. A knock at his door pulled him from his thoughts. Liam stood there, already dressed in linen shorts and a breezy shirt. "Breakfast, then beach day with everyone," he announced cheerfully. Emma says you've been hiding behind that camera of yours for too long. Time to actually enjoy yourself. I forced a smile. Lead the way. The breakfast terrace buzzed with conversation as guests enjoyed a spread of Greek pastries, fresh fruit, and strong coffee. Adrian filled his plate, scanning the area before spotting Sophia at a corner table, deep in conversation with vendors. She wore a simple white dress, her hair pulled back in a loose braid, looking effortlessly beautiful in a way that made his chest tighten. "She's single, you know," came a voice beside him. Emma, Liam's fiancée, gave him a knowing look. "Who?" I asked, feigning ignorance. Emma rolled her eyes. "I saw your face last night when you two met. Liam might be oblivious, but I'm not." She sipped her coffee. "Sophia is brilliant. Came back from London a few years ago when her mother got sick. Saved the family business. Never mentioned knowing you, though." Before Adrian could respond, Sophia approached, tablet in hand. "Emma, the florist needs final approval on the centerpieces." Her eyes flickered to Adrian briefly. "Good morning." "Morning," he replied, suddenly very interested in his coffee. Emma glanced between them with amusement. "Actually, Sophia, Adrian is quite the photographer. Why don't you show him the ceremony site? I'd love his opinion on the lighting for photos." Sophia's professional smile never wavered. "Of course." Minutes later, they walked in uncomfortable silence along a path winding down the cliffside. The ceremony site was a stunning terrace jutting out over the caldera, white chairs arranged to face the endless blue horizon. "It's perfect for photography," Adrian admitted, squinting against the sunlight. "Golden hour will cast everything in warm light." Sophia nodded. "That's why we scheduled for 6 p.m. She hesitated. "Your work has become quite impressive. I've seen your exhibitions online." Adrian looked at her surprised. "You followed my career?" A faint blush colored her cheeks. "Occasionally." The wind picked up, sending strands of her hair dancing. Adrian resisted the urge to tuck them behind her ear as he once would have. "Why did you leave, Sophia?" The question escaped before he could stop it. Her eyes met his, vulnerable for the first time. "It's complicated. We have time." She turned toward the sea. "My mother's cancer diagnosis came suddenly, stage 4. My father was devastated, barely functioning. Our family business, this place, was failing. I had to come home." "You could have told me," Adrian said, his voice softening. "Would you?" Her eyes challenged him. "You were just gaining recognition. That fellowship in New York was everything you had worked for." She shook her head. "I couldn't ask you to give that up for me." "That wasn't your decision to make," he replied, frustration edging his words. A call from above interrupted them. "Guests are gathering for the beach excursion. We should go back," Sophia said quietly. "The boat leaves soon." As they climbed the path, Adrian asked, "Your mother? Is she—" "In remission," Sophia answered, relief evident in her voice. "For 2 years now." He nodded, heart lightening slightly at this news. "I'm glad." When they reached the top, Liam waved them over, excitement radiating from him. "There you are, ready for some snorkeling?" Sophia checked her watch. "I need to finalize details for tonight's dinner. You all have fun." As she walked away, Adrian felt Emma's gaze on him. "Complicated history?" she asked softly. Adrian watched Sophia's retreating figure. "You could say that." "Well," Emma smiled knowingly, "the week is young, and in my experience, Santorini has a way of healing old wounds." Later that evening, as lanterns illuminated the welcome dinner and guests laughed, under stars, Adrian caught Sophia watching him from across the terrace. For a moment, the years between them seemed to dissolve until she looked away and the distance returned, deeper than the sea surrounding them.
Twilight Confessions. The sunset cruise had been Liam and Emma's idea, a chance for the wedding party to relax before the rehearsal dinner the following evening. The yacht glided through the Aegean waters, music drifting across the deck as guests danced, drank, and celebrated the couple. Adrian leaned against the railing, camera hanging unused around his neck. For once, he wanted to experience the moment rather than capture it. The sun hung low on the horizon, painting the volcanic islands in shades of amber and rose. "Not taking pictures?" Sophia appeared beside him, keeping a careful distance. She'd changed from her coordinator attire into a flowing maxi dress, her hair loose around her shoulders. Adrian shook his head. "Some moments deserve to be lived, not documented. A small smile played on her lips. "That's new for you." 3 years is a long time, he said softly. "People change." Silence stretched between them, filled only by the sound of waves against the hull and distant laughter from the other end of the yacht. Most guests had gathered around Liam and Emma, giving Adrian and Sophia an unexpected pocket of privacy. "I went to your exhibition in Athens last year," Sophia admitted suddenly. "The Urban Solitude series." Adrian turned to her, surprised. "You were there? Why didn't you say something?" She gazed out at the darkening sky. "What would I have said? Hello, sorry I disappeared from your life without explanation?" "It would have been a start," he replied, unable to keep the hurt from his voice. Sophia's fingers gripped the railing tighter. "I almost did. I stood across the gallery watching you charm critics and collectors. You looked successful, happy." Adrian laughed without humor. The great illusion of social functions. He turned to face her fully. "I threw myself into work after you left. Traveled constantly. Never stayed anywhere long enough to form attachments." "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Why didn't you call, Sophia, even once?" The question hung between them as the last rays of sunlight disappeared beneath the horizon. Stars began emerging in the darkening sky, witnesses to their long-overdue conversation. Sophia took a deep breath. "When I got the call about my mother, everything happened so fast. I flew home that night, and within days it became clear how bad things were. The medical bills were enormous, the business was failing, my father was falling apart." Her voice trembled. "You were about to leave for that fellowship in New York. It was everything you'd worked for." "So you made the choice for both of us," Adrian said quietly. "I thought it was kinder to make a clean break. I convinced myself you'd resent me eventually, being tied to someone whose life was collapsing an ocean away." Adrian stepped closer. "That should have been my decision too." Tears glistened in his eyes. "I know that now. But at 28, watching my mother fight for her life and our family legacy crumbling..." She wiped a tear away. "I thought I was protecting you, protecting us both from a slow, painful end." The yacht rounded the edge of the caldera, revealing the lights of Santorini twinkling against the night sky. From this distance, they looked like fallen stars scattered across the cliffs. "After my mother improved, I was too ashamed to reach out. Too much time had passed. I saw your career taking off, exhibitions in London, New York, Tokyo." She shook her head. "What right did I have to reappear in your life?" Adrian's anger softened at the vulnerability in her voice. "I would have answered, if you'd called." Their eyes met in the dim light of the deck lanterns. For the first time since their reunion, both masks had fallen away, revealing the raw truth beneath. "And now?" Sophia asked, her voice barely audible above the waves. Before Adrian could answer, a commotion erupted from the main deck. The captain had announced they were approaching a perfect spot to view the island's lights. Guests crowded the railings, cameras flashing. The moment broken, Sophia straightened, composing herself. "I should check if Emma needs anything." As she turned to leave, Adrian gently caught her wrist. "This conversation isn't finished." Her eyes met his, a mix of hope and fear swimming in their depths. "I know," she whispered, before slipping away into the crowd. Adrian remained at the railing, watching the island grow closer, feeling as though something fundamental had shifted between them, like tectonic plates realigning after years of pressure, creating new landscape from old terrain. Shattered walls. The rehearsal dinner unfolded in the estate's private vineyard, long tables arranged beneath olive trees strung with delicate lights. Laughter and conversation flowed as freely as the local wine, creating an atmosphere of intimate celebration. Adrian sat among friends, contributing to stories about Liam's university escapades, but his awareness remained fixed on Sophia moving efficiently between staff and guests. She was performing her role flawlessly, yet he caught moments when her professional veneers slipped, a fleeting glance in his direction, a soft smile when their eyes met across the tables. Their conversation on the yacht had shifted something fundamental between them, creating a current neither could ignore. As dessert was served, traditional baklava and fresh fruit, Adrian stood to toast his bride-to-be. Adrian raised his glass with the others, watching Emma's face illuminate with love. For the first time in years, the cynicism he'd cultivated about relationships felt hollow. The evening progressed into dancing under the stars. Adrian captured candid moments with his camera, Emma twirling in Liam's arms, elderly relatives clapping to traditional Greek music, children playing between tables. Through his lens, he noticed Sophia slipping away from the celebration, following a path that led towards a stone terrace overlooking the moonlit sea. Without conscious decision, Adrian handed his camera to another guest and followed. He found her leaning against an ancient stone wall, face tilted towards the night sky. The moon cast silver light across her features, highlighting the gentle curve of her neck, the slope of her shoulders under a simple black dress. "Escaping your own masterpiece?" he asked quietly. "Just catching my breath. Everything's going perfectly." "It is," he agreed, moving beside her. "You've created something beautiful here." Their shoulders nearly touched as they gazed out at the silver path the moon painted across the water. The vineyard's ambient sounds faded into background, creating a bubble of stillness around them. "I've been thinking about what you said yesterday, about protecting me from a painful end." Sophia's eyes remained on the horizon. "I thought I was being selfless. Now I see I was also fear." "Fear of what?" he asked, turning to study her profile. "Fear of seeing disappointment grow in your eyes, of watching love turn to resentment as I couldn't leave Greece and you couldn't leave your career." Her voice softened. "Fear of loving someone so deeply that losing them slowly would be worse than losing them all at once." The honesty between them felt like a fragile, precious thing. Adrian reached for her hand, his fingers sliding between hers with familiar ease. "I was angry for a long time," he confessed. "I channeled it into work, traveled constantly, built walls around myself. My life looked impressive from the outside. Exhibitions, awards, magazine features." He shook his head. "But it was empty, Sophia. I've taken thousands of photographs of connection without experiencing it myself." Her fingers tightened on his hand. "And now?" Adrian turned fully towards her, courage fueled by moonlight and truth long overdue. "Now, I'm standing here wondering if some stories aren't meant to end." Sophia's breath caught. She lifted her free hand to his face, fingers tracing the sharper angles that years had carved into his features. "You've changed," she whispered. "So have you," he replied, noticing the newfound confidence in her stance, the quiet strength in her eyes. The distance between them dissolved slowly, inevitably. When their lips met, it wasn't the desperate passion of youth, but something deeper, a recognition, a homecoming. His arms encircled her waist as hers wound around his neck. The kiss deepened with years of unspoken longing. When they finally parted, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. "What happens tomorrow, after the wedding?" Sophia's eyes held both vulnerability and determination. "I don't know," she answered honestly. "My life is here now, my family, the business, and mine is scattered across the world," he acknowledged. The music from the party drifted toward them on the night breeze, a reminder of responsibilities temporarily set aside. Sophia stepped back slightly, though her hand remained in his. "We should return before we're missed," she said, though reluctance colored her voice. Adrian nodded but didn't move. "Tomorrow," he said with quiet intensity, "after my best friend marries the love of his life, we finish this conversation."
No more running, no more half-truths. Just us, deciding if what we still feel is worth fighting for. Something shifted in
New horizons. The wedding day dawned perfect and clear, as if the Greek gods themselves had blessed the occasion. Adrian spent the morning with Liam and a groomsman, alternating between his duties as friend and photographer, capturing moments of nervous anticipation and joyful preparation. His thoughts, however, continuously drifted to Sophia and the promise of tomorrow that now hung between them. He caught glimpses of her throughout the morning, directing florists, adjusting decorations, ensuring every detail was flawless. Each time their eyes met, a silent acknowledgement passed between them, a shared secret amidst the day's festivities. As guests gathered for the ceremony, Adrian positioned himself to capture Liam's face when Emma appeared. The terrace overlooking the caldera was transformed. White flowers cascaded from stone pillars, and the setting sun bathed everything in golden light. When the music began and Emma walked toward her future husband, Adrian photographed Liam's expression of awe and love. Through his lens, he also found Sophia, standing at the periphery, watching not the bride but him, her eyes reflecting something he'd once feared lost forever. The ceremony was beautiful in its simplicity. Vows exchanged against the backdrop of sea and sky, promises made as the sun began its descent toward the horizon. Adrian captured it all while feeling something shift within himself. For years, he'd observed life through his camera, one step removed from genuine connection. Now he found himself longing to set it aside and fully participate in his own story. At the reception, after formal photographs were complete, Adrian surrendered his camera to his assistant. Liam noticed immediately. "Taking the night off?" his friend asked with a knowing smile. Adrian glanced toward where Sophia was speaking with Emma's parents. "Something like that." Liam followed his gaze. "Whatever happened between you two, it's not finished, is it?" "No," Adrian admitted. "I don't think it ever was." Liam clapped his shoulder. "Life's too short for unfinished business, mate." He nodded toward Sophia. "Go, be happy. It's an order from the groom." The celebration flowed into evening. Dinner beneath the stars, heartfelt toasts, laughter and dancing as night deepened. Adrian and Sophia maintained their respective roles, exchanging glances across the terrace, brief touches as they passed, building anticipation for the moment when obligations would end and possibilities could begin. That moment came as the reception reached its peak, guests lost in music and celebration. Sophia approached Adrian at the edge of the dance floor, professional facade finally set aside. "Walk with me?" she asked, extending her hand. He took it without hesitation, following as she led him away from the festivities toward a secluded path illuminated by moonlight. They walked in comfortable silence until reaching a small, private cove below the property, waves gently lapping at the shore. "I used to come here as a child," Sophia said, removing her shoes to feel sand beneath her feet. "Whenever I needed to make an important decision," Adrian smiled, doing the same. "And what decision brings us here tonight?" She turned to him, moonlight silvering her features. "The same one we've been circling since you arrived. What happens now, Adrian?" He tied both her hands in his. "I've been thinking about that. What if it doesn't have to be all or nothing? What if we stop seeing distance as an obstacle and start seeing it as, well, a different kind of path?" "What do you mean?" Curiosity lit her eyes. "My life isn't just in London anymore. I travel for assignments, choose projects that interest me." He stepped closer. "What if some of those projects brought me to Greece? What if I based myself here part of the year?" Hope flickered across her face. "You would do that? For a chance to see if what we still feel can grow into something new?" "Yes." His voice held certainty. "The past 3 days have shown me something important, Sophia. Success means nothing if you have no one to share it with." Sophia's eyes glistened in the moonlight. "And when you're not here?"
We do what we should have done years ago. We talk every day. We make decisions together. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. No more assumptions about what the other person needs or wants. No more sacrifices that weren't asked for. She stepped into his embrace, resting her head against his chest. It won't be easy. The best stories never are, he murmured into her hair. Sophia looked up at him, years of regret and possibility merging in her gaze. Is that what we are? A story worth telling? Instead of answering with words, Adrian lowered his mouth to hers. This kiss held promise rather than just memory, a beginning rather than an echo of what once was. When they finally parted, breathless and certain, he pressed his forehead to hers. Our story isn't about the past, Sophia. It's about what happens next. Above them, fireworks exploded over the reception, celebrating Liam and Emma's new beginning. On the shore, wrapped in moonlight and possibility, Adrian and Sophia created their own. Months later, Adrian would capture a photograph of Sophia standing on this same beach at sunrise, her silhouette framed against the awakening sky. Unlike his previous work that focused on isolation, this image radiated connection and hope. It would become the centerpiece of his next exhibition, titled simply New Horizons. The photograph told a story of second chances and brave beginnings, of two people who discovered that sometimes the most beautiful journey isn't finding your way back to what was lost, but forward to what might be.